Okay, in this video, I'm going to do a quick overview of Luminar 2018, what it is, what it isn't, and hopefully this will help you decide if this is something you want to buy. Luminar is a universal photo editing software that's developed by Skylum. It's available for Windows and Mac. It can work as a standalone application and it's a plugin, and it works a bit differently depending on how you launch it. So if I launch it from within Lightroom, it behaves slightly differently than if I was to launch it as a standalone, and I'll show you both instances of that. All right, and Luminar is a very good plugin and very good standalone application. Skylum are targeting Lightroom users and trying to get them to switch to using Luminar exclusively. But right now, Luminar doesn't have any cataloging capabilities, so I can't go into Luminar and say, hey, those pictures I took in 2016 of Washington, D.C., they're all right here. I can't do that in Luminar. And Lightroom, of course I can. Lightroom has cataloging. It's easy to organize stuff. So in my opinion, until Luminar has cataloging, they're not going to compete with Lightroom. The good news is Luminar are working on that. So in a future release coming out this year in 2018, they're going to have cataloging. And at that point, you might want to consider looking at maybe switching to it. One main benefit is that Luminar is only 60 bucks. It's 59 bucks if you use the coupon code FORD when you buy it. It's 69 bucks ordinarily. So for 59 bucks, when they have cataloging, it might be something you want to look into. And when you buy it, you own it. There's no subscription. So that's a pretty good argument. But for now, I just want to show you how it works. So from within Lightroom, the way you get it to go from Lightroom to Luminar, do your adjustments, and then come back into Lightroom and have the image show up, there's a very specific way to do that from within Lightroom. And the way you do it is from within the Develop module in Lightroom. You right-click on your image and you choose Export, and then down here you have Edit a Copy with Lightroom Adjustments from underneath this Luminar header here. So Edit a Copy with Lightroom Adjustments, click on that, and the image loads. So this is a raw image shot with a Sony A7R. Right off the bat, I'll show you the difference between opening from within Lightroom versus opening an image from just a standalone application. And the main difference is right here in the File menu. So right here you have Add Custom Presets Pack, Language, and Exit. That's it in the File menu from using this as a plugin for Lightroom. Now if you open it as a standalone, you can have multiple instances of Luminar running concurrently. So I have this running as well as the other one. But you'll see this is opened as a standalone, and now I have a bunch of other options. Install plugins, presets, all these things. The main thing here is that I can save the image with the Luminar extension. What that means is that if I add a bunch of filters and make a bunch of adjustments, I can save this in its native format, reopen it later on, and have Luminar show me all those filters I added, all those adjustments I added, that'll all be there. When I open it from Lightroom, the only option I have is Apply, and when I do that, it's going to apply all my adjustments, flatten the image to a TIFF file, put it back into Lightroom, and that's it. You're done. So you have to be kind of final with your adjustments in here if you've come from Lightroom into Luminar versus coming in as a standalone. You could make adjustments. You could say, save this, I'll come back later on. So it really just depends on your approach and what you're trying to do here, okay? So having said that, let's go ahead and talk about how Luminar works, what the interface does, etc. So like I said, there's File, that's pretty barren. Edit, Undo, Redo. The Image menu lets you rotate the image, flip it, and defringe it. Luminar does have layers, including adjustment layers, which is nice. Very similar to Photoshop in that regard. Your filters, which we'll get into in a minute. Tools, these tools are the same tools that you have over here. So this is the same as this, with the exception of you have a masking brush, a gradient mask, and a radial mask here. Okay. And then masking, more masking options here. And then your typical window, and then your help and your Skylum account. All right, so next you have zoom, and you can fit to the screen. Okay. This is your preview, so as you make adjustments, you can preview the image. You can turn off you can turn it off, turn it back on. And then the before-after sliders, you've seen in other plugins, I'm sure. Pretty standard stuff there. Undo, history, tools I talked about. These are a bunch of preset filters that are at the bottom of the screen. These are all of these. So if you turn this off, those disappear, and they reappear then. They're a lot like Instagram filters, and I'll show you those in a second. These are all the filters over here on the right, so click on that. Those disappear, reappear. This is your histogram. This is your layers, which is right here. That turns that on and off. And then the information about the photo, just that line of information there. All right. Now, these presets down here, if you want to play around with these, like I said, they are a lot like Instagram filters. Let's turn on the vivid one. What's going to happen is if I click on this, Luminar adds a bunch of pre-done filters over here, okay? And it calls this a custom workspace, right? So I can make adjustments here. You know, I can do your typical contrast, exposure. And then the overall effect of all these filters is right here, filters amount. So that's everything. And that's also down here. Same thing. Okay. And let's talk about workspaces. If I clear this out, it's going to delete all the stuff I did here. So that'll bring us back to where the photo was to begin with. So we'll say clear workspace. And you can choose pre-built workspaces. So you have these professional, quick and awesome, essentials. Essentials is a lot like the develop module in Lightroom. So click on that. You get your develop here. You have your contrast. You have your exposure, you know, highlights, shadows. You've seen all this stuff before in Lightroom. And then this also adds a bunch of other ones down here that I'm not going to talk about for now, although you're used to Vignette. The Vignette in Luminar is pretty good, I have to say. But let's go ahead and start adding our own filters here. I'll clear this out again. And by the way, if you clear these out, if you say clear workspace, it's going to delete everything you did. So if I click on clear workspace, it knocks everything out. You can undo that. This whole workspace thing is kind of weird. Like these filters they're just filters. Like everything you adjust in here is a filter. And you can delete them. You can undo. It's kind of interesting. It's a lot different than how Lightroom approaches it, where Lightroom just has a develop module, and everything that's in the develop module is what you get. Here it's more like, here's a bunch of filters, and you can add them, you can delete them. So it's a little different. And then, like I said, if you clear this whole thing out, it wipes out all those filters. So let's do that. All right, now the first thing I'll show you is something called the Accent AI filter. And I think Luminar are kind of proud of this filter. They're proud of it. They like it. They list it first. So if you say add filters, the very first one shown is Accent AI. And I think they're proud of this one. So if let's turn this all the way up to 100, the filters amount, and then hit boost here. And you'll see it starts to bring up shadows, bring up clarity. It's basically just guessing on what this image needs. And it does a fairly good job ordinarily. In this case, it's pretty good, right? So let's take this down to about 40-ish, right? Pretty cool. And we'll keep this at 100. Okay. The next one I'll add is what's called Sunrays. And that's over here. If you can actually search for anything in this list, there's a search box up here. So I'll type in sun, and you'll see that Sunrays comes up. So you click on that, it adds it. And then to move the sun rays, you see where it says place sun center. And you have a little control here. You can grab that and start dragging your sun rays around. This is interesting. I'm guessing it's looking at the black levels and the white levels and the pixels and saying, well, if the black levels are high, hide the sun rays, and if the white levels are high, show them, because it looks like it understands geometry in a way. But you can see it doesn't quite get it right because it's showing on the bridge, but nevertheless, that's pretty impressive. You know, adding sun rays in Photoshop, I've done it before, and it's not easy. So to have a tool like this at your disposal that's easy to just drag and drop, that's pretty impressive. Now, let's go ahead and crank these up so you can really see them. And you can see that the sun rays are showing up at the top of the bridge, which I don't really want. Okay, so all the filters in Luminar come with a mask pre-built in, and you can actually paint the effects in and out. So we want to paint out the sun rays at the top of the bridge here. So this little brush tool here, click on brush, and then I actually want to erase this. I don't want my opacity to be 100%. And I'll go ahead and turn on the preview of the mask. So this little eyeball here lets me see the entire mask. And I'll just start painting. All right, so I'm painting out those sun rays. And let's turn this mask off again, and you can see that it's working pretty well. And if I inadvertently, painted stuff I wanted to keep, you can put this stuff back in. So let's paint it back in. There you go. So that's pretty powerful. It's built-in masks, and every single effect that you add that you can paint in and out, that's pretty powerful. And let's continue to adjust these sun rays. I think it needs to be a little warmer, so there's a warmth slider here. All right. This one down here as well. That's pretty extreme, but I'm just showing you, a good example of how these filters work. Let's let's crank this up a little bit here. Let's turn this up. You can see that you can really adjust the rays as well. You can adjust the length, the warmth I showed you, radius, glow radius. So pretty powerful stuff, right? And then the amount. Turn this down. That's pretty cool. All right. And the next effect I want to show you is called Orton. So again, we'll add a filter, and we'll type in Orton effect. And then down here, here's the amount. And it's kind of like a glowy, soft glow effect, which works with this image, I think. I don't want it on the bridge, so I'm going to, again, paint out the effect on the bridge. So again, turn the brush on, and we're going to erase from the bridge. So keep that looking kind of sharp. All right. But otherwise, I like the effect on this image. It's pretty dreamy looking now, pretty dramatic, right? So that's cool. And you can change the softness amount. You can make it really crazy, or you can lower it, add some contrast, change the saturation, just make it really, super dramatic. All right. And then the last effect I want to apply is called golden hour. So we'll add filters again, and we'll type in gold. And here's golden hour. And golden hour's settings are pretty straightforward. You have saturation and amount. Just add some gold tint to this image. Right. That's pretty intense. That's maybe too much. So anyway. And then the overall, again, this is like I showed you before with the kind of Instagram type things. There's an overall filters amount. So all these filters I did, you can change the amount of those filters, right? So, okay, and then the last thing I want to show you is an adjustment layer. So let's go to up here where you have layers, and you can actually create a stamped layer, which means take all these filter effects I did and then stamp them into a whole new layer. So it's almost like Control-Alt-Shift-E in Photoshop. That's kind of what this is doing. So we will add a new adjustment layer in this case. And adjustment layers are like they are in Photoshop. Similar kind of thing, but in this case, we're actually going to use this with an effect. So I'm going to use Details Enhancer. So type in Details, and there's Details Enhancer. And then we can, again, like the other ones, there's just how much do you want? And you can see it's working on the trees quite a bit. Pretty crazy looking. And then there's an amount, the opacity. Filters amount here, same thing, and then opacity here. Oop. Right. So just how much of this do you want? And then all the layers in Luminar have modes. So this is just like Photoshop, so layer modes. So you can choose how you want this adjustment layer to be applied. So it just depends on what you're looking for. But again, that's pretty powerful. The fact that you can do this type of thing for $59, that's pretty impressive, right? So that's pretty cool. All right. So I'm pretty happy with that. You know what I'm going to add as a vignette. So let's go ahead and add a new layer. And I'm going to add a vignette. So vignette. And go to the right, your vignette turns white. Go to the left, it turns black. And then size, and the roundness. Inner light, right? That's pretty cool looking. All right. So that is one dramatic looking image. You know, I probably wouldn't keep this looking this way, but I just wanted to show you some of the crazy things you can do in Luminar. So, you know, once you're happy with that, if you think that's pretty cool looking, to save everything, you hit apply. Now, like I said, when you hit apply, it's gonna flatten everything into one TIFF file and bring it back into Lightroom. If you had done this the other way around, where you open the image from the standalone application, you could say File and do Save and choose the Luminar extension. But in this case, because we came from Lightroom, we're going to go back into Lightroom. It's going to flatten everything and open the image in Lightroom. So let's go ahead and do that. So hit Apply. And there's the image in Lightroom, okay? And again, if you wanted to continue to edit this, you could. You know, you're in Lightroom now, so you're in the Develop module, so you could do more editing if you wanted to. You know. But like I said, you know, it's a really powerful plugin for Lightroom. It's a really cool way to finish off your images. Is it a replacement? Not yet. You know, maybe it will be in the future when they introduce the cataloging system into Luminar, but for now, I do think it's worth it for 59 bucks. I mean, 59 bucks gets you in the door. They're adding cataloging. It's buy to own. There's no subscription. I don't know. It's pretty powerful. I'm pretty convinced at this point that it's worth owning. So hopefully this helped you decide if you want to buy this software. If you do, there's a link in the description below this video or on the webpage if you're looking at this on my webpage. There's a code to buy it for $10 off, so it drops the price down to $59. And that's pretty much it. So thanks for watching.